Thoughts, man.
Hare Krishna. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Namaste Nrsimhaya. Namaste Nrsimhaya. This a little bit back so that you can also stay in the frame.
Krishna book. Yes. Is the audio then fine because it's far? It's the audio
Weaker, yeah?
Weaker.
Maybe remove the stable. Restream. Okay.
So this is Krishna book, and with chapter 87, Divinity Lord Shiva. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Vakshava. Krishna, 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 Bharimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Vakshava. Krishna, 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 Bharimam. Very good. So, deliverance from Lord Shiva. As a great devotee of Krishna, King Parikshit was already liberated. But for clarification, he was asking various questions of Sukadeva Goswami. In the previous chapter, King Parikshit's question was, what is the ultimate goal of the Vedas? Sukadeva Goswami explained the matter, giving authoritative descriptions from the disciplic succession, beginning with Sanandana down to Narayan Rishi, Narada and Vyasadeva. And then he himself, the conclusion was that devotional service or bhakti is the ultimate goal of the Vedas. A neophyte devotee may question if the ultimate goal of life or the conclusion of the Vedas is to elevate oneself to the platform of devotional service, then why is it observed that a devotee of Lord Vishnu is generally not very prosperous materially, whereas a devotee of Lord Shiva is found to be very opulent? In order to clarify the matter, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, my dear Sukadeva Goswami, it is generally found that those who engage in the worship of Lord Shiva, whether in human, demoniac or demigod society, become materially very opulent. Although Lord Shiva himself lives just like a poverty-stricken person. On the other hand, the devotees of Lord Vishnu, who is the controller of the gods of fortune, do not appear very prosperous. And sometimes they are even found living without any material opulence at all. Lord Shiva lives under a tree or in the snow of the Himalayan mountains. He does not even construct a house for himself. But still, the worshippers of Lord Shiva are very rich.
Krishna or Lord Vishnu, however, lives very opulently, whether in Vaikuntha or in this material world. But his devotees appear poverty-stricken. Why is this so? Maharaj Parikshit's question is very intelligent. The two classes of devotees, namely the devotees of Lord Shiva and the devotees of Lord Vishnu, are always in disagreement. Even today in India, these two classes of devotees still criticize each other. And especially in South India, the followers of Ramanujacharya and the followers of Shankaracharya hold occasional meetings for understanding the Vedic conclusion. Generally, the followers of Ramanujacharya come out victorious in such meetings. So Parikshit Maharaj wanted to clarify the situation by asking this question of Shukadeva Goswami. That Lord Shiva lives as a poor man, although his devotees appear very opulent, whereas Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu is always opulent, and yet his devotees appear poverty-stricken. Is a situation which appears contradictory and puzzling to a discriminating person. Replying to King Parikshit's inquiry, Shukadeva Goswami said that Lord Shiva is the master of the material energy. The material energy is represented by Goddess Durga. And because Lord Shiva happens to be her husband, Goddess Durga is completely under his subjugation. Thus Lord Shiva is understood to be the master of this material energy. The material energy is manifested in three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And therefore, Lord Shiva is the master of these three qualities. Although he is in association with these qualities for the benefit of the conditioned soul, Lord Shiva is the director and is not affected. Although the conditioned soul is affected by the three qualities, Lord Shiva, being the master of these qualities, is not. From this statement of Shukadeva Goswami, we can understand that the effects of worshipping different demigods are not, as some less intelligent persons suppose, the same as the effects of worshipping Lord Vishnu. He clearly states that by worshipping Lord Shiva, one achieves one reward, whereas by worshipping Lord Vishnu, one achieves a different reward. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Those who worship the different demigods achieve the desired results the respective demigods can reward. Similarly, those who worship the material energy receive the suitable reward for such activities, and those who worship the pittas receive similar results. But those who engage in devotional service or worship of the
Supreme Lord, Vishnu or Krishna, go to the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. One cannot approach the transcendental region or paradyoma, the spiritual sky, by worshipping Lord Shiva or Brahma or any other demigod. Since this material world is a product of the three qualities of material nature, all varieties of manifestations come from those three qualities. With the aid of materialistic science, modern civilization has created many machines and comforts, yet they are only varieties of the interactions of three material qualities. Although the devotees of Lord Shiva are able to obtain many material acquisitions, we should know that they are simply collecting products manufactured by the three qualities. The three qualities are again subdivided into 16, namely the 10 senses, 5 working senses, and 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the mind, and the 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and sky. These 16 items are further extensions of the three qualities. Material happiness or opulence against gratification. Material happiness or opulence means gratification of the senses, specifically the genitals, the tongue, and the mind. By exercising our minds, we create many pleasurable things, just for enjoyment by the genitals and the tongue. The opulence of a person within this material world is estimated in terms of his exercise of the genitals and the tongue, or in other words, how well he is able to utilize his sexual capacities and how well he is able to satisfy his fastidious taste by eating palatable dishes. Material advancement of civilization necessitates creating objects of enjoyment by mental concoction just to become happy on the basis of these two principles: pleasures for the genitals and pleasures for the tongue. Herein lies the answer to King Parikshit's question to Sukadeva Goswami as to why the worshippers of Lord Shiva are so opulent. The devotees of Lord Shiva are only opulent in terms of the material qualities. Factually, such so-called advancement of civilization is the cause of entanglement in material existence. It is actually not advancement, but degradation. The conclusion is that because Lord Shiva is the master of the three qualities, his devotees are given things manufactured by the interactions of these qualities for satisfaction of the senses. In the Bhagavad Gita, however, we get instruction from Lord Krishna that one has to transcend their qualitative existence. Nishtargunya Bhavarjuna. The mission of human life is to become transcendental to the three qualities. Unless one is Nishtargunya, he cannot get free from
material entanglement. In other words, favours received from Lord Shiva are not actually beneficial to the conditioned souls, although such facilities seem opulent. Sukadeva Goswami continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is transcendental to the three qualities of material nature. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who surrenders unto him surpasses the control of the three qualities of material nature. Therefore, since Hari's devotees are transcendental to the control of these three qualities, certainly he himself is transcendental. It is stated, therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Hari or Krishna is the original Supreme Personality. There are two kinds of properties or potencies, namely the internal potency and the external potency. And Krishna is overlord of both. He is Sarvadak, or the overseer of all the actions of the internal and external potencies. And he is also described as Upadrasta, the supreme advisor. Because he is the supreme advisor, he is above all the demigods, who merely follow the directions of the supreme advisor. As such, if one directly follows the instructions of the Supreme Lord as inculcated in Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, then one gradually becomes nirguna, or above the interactions of the material qualities. To be nirguna means to be bereft of the material opulences, because, as we've explained, material opulences means an increase of the actions and reactions of the three material qualities. By worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, instead of being puffed up with material opulences, one becomes enriched with the spiritual advancement of knowledge and Krishna consciousness. To become nirguna means to achieve eternal peace, fearlessness, religiousness, knowledge and renunciation. All these symptoms of becoming free from the contamination of material qualities. Sukadeva Goswami, in answering Parikshit Maharaj's question, went on to cite a historical incident regarding Parikshit Maharaj's grandfather, King Yudhisthira. He said that after finishing the Ashwamedha sacrifice in the great sacrificial arena, King Yudhisthira, in the presence of great authorities, inquired on that very same point. How is it that the devotees of Lord Shiva become material opulence, whereas the devotees of Lord Vishnu do not? Sukadeva Goswami specifically referred to King Yudhisthira as your grandfather, so that Maharaj Parikshit would be encouraged to think that he was related to Krishna and that his grandfathers were intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Although Krishna is always very satisfied by nature, when Maharaj Yudhishthira asked this question, the Lord became even more satisfied because these questions and their answers would bear a great meaning for the entire Krishna conscious society. Whenever Lord Krishna speaks about something to a specific devotee, it is not meant only for that devotee, but for the entire human society. Instructions by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are important even to the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and others. And one who does not take advantage of the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends within this world for the benefit of all living entities, is certainly very unfortunate. Lord Krishna answered the questions of Maharaj Yudhishthira as follows. If I especially favor a devotee and especially wish to care for him, the first thing I do is take away his riches. When the devotee becomes a penniless pauper or is put into a comparatively poverty-stricken position, his relatives and family members no longer take interest in him, and in most cases they give up their connection with him. The devotee then becomes doubly unhappy. First of all, he becomes unhappy because his riches have been taken away by Krishna, and he is made even more unhappy when his relatives desert him because of his poverty. We should note, however, that when a devotee falls into a miserable condition in this way, it is not due to past impious activities, known as karma phala. The poverty of the devotee is a creation of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, when a devotee becomes materially opulent, that is also not due to his pious activities. In either case, whether the devotee becomes poorer or richer, the arrangement is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This arrangement is especially made by Krishna for his devotee just to make him completely dependent upon him and to free him from all material obligations. He can then concentrate his energies, mind and body, everything for the service of the Lord, and that is pure devotional service. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is therefore explained Sarvabhati Vinirmuktam, which means being freed from all designations. Works performed for family, society, community, nation, or humanity are all designated. Quote, I belong to this society, I belong to this community, I belong to this nation, I belong to...
Bitterness.
No. I belong to...
Okay.
Yeah.
This is also.
Oh,
No, here.
okay.
I belong to this species of life. Such identities are all merely designations. When by the grace of the Lord a devotee is freed from all designations, his devotional service is actually Naishkarma. Jnanis are very much attracted by the position of Naishkarma, in which one's actions no longer have material effect. When a devotee's actions are freed from effects, they are no longer in the category of karma phala, or fruitive activities. As explained before by the personified Vedas, the happiness and distress of a devotee are produced by the personality of Godhead, and the devotee therefore does not care whether he is in happiness He goes on with his duties in executing devotional service. Although his behavior seems to be subject to the actions and reactions of fruitive activities, he is actually freed from the results of actions. It may be questioned why a devotee is put in such tribulations by the personality of Godhead. The answer is that this kind of arrangement by the Lord is just like a father's sometimes becoming unkind to his sons. Because the devotee is a surrendered soul and is taking charge of the Supreme Lord, whenever the Lord puts him into any condition of life, either in distress or in happiness, it is to be understood that behind this arrangement is a large plan designed by the personality of Godhead. For example, Lord Krishna put the Pandavas into a distressed condition so acute that even grandfather Bhishma could not comprehend how such a distress could occur. He lamented that although the whole Pandava family was headed by King Yudhishthira, the most pious king, and protected by the two great warriors, Bhima and Arjuna, and although, above all, the Pandavas were all intimate friends and relatives of Lord Krishna, they still had to undergo such tribulations. Later, however, it was proved that this was planned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as part of his great mission to annihilate the miscreants and protect the devotees. Another question may be raised. Since a devotee is put into different kinds of happy and distressful conditions by the arrangement of the Personality of Godhead, and a common man is put into such conditions as a result of his past deeds, then what is the difference? How is the devotee any better than the ordinary karmi? The answer is that the karmis and the devotees are not on the same level. In whatever condition of life the karmi may be, he continues in the cycle of birth and death because the seed of karma of fruitive activity is there, and it fructifies whenever there is an opportunity.
By the law of karma, a common man is perpetually entangled in repeated birth and death, whereas the devotee's distress and happiness, not being under the laws of karma, are part of a temporary arrangement by the Supreme Lord, which does not entangle the devotee. Such an arrangement is made by the Lord, only to serve a temporary purpose. If the karmi performs auspicious acts, he is elevated to the heavenly planets, and if he acts impiously, he is put into a hellish condition. But whether a devotee acts in a so-called pious or impious manner, he is neither elevated nor degraded, but is transferred to the spiritual kingdom. Therefore, a devotee's happiness and distress and the karmi's happiness and distress are not on the same level. This fact is corroborated by a speech by Yamaraj to his servants in the connection with the liberation of Ajmer. Yamaraj advised his followers that persons who have never uttered the holy name of the Lord, nor remembered the form, quality and pastimes of the Lord, should be approached by his watch guards. Yamaraj also advised his servants never to approach the devotees. On the contrary, he instructed his messengers that if they met a devotee, they should offer their respectful obeisances. So there is no question of a devotee being promoted or degraded in this material world, as there is a gulf of difference between the punishment awarded by the mother and the punishment awarded by an enemy. So a devotee's distress is not the same as the distress of the common karmi. Here another question may be raised. If God is all-powerful, why should he try to reform his devotee by putting him in distress? The answer is that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead puts his devotee in distress, it is not without purpose. Sometimes the purpose is that in distress, a devotee's feeling of attachment to Krishna are magnified. For example, when Krishna, before leaving the capital of the Pandavas for his home, was asked for permission to leave, Kunti Devi said, "My dear Krishna, in our distress, you are always present with us. Now, because we have been elevated to a royal position, you are leaving us. I would therefore prefer to live in distress than to lose you." When the devotee is put into a situation of distress, his devotional activities are accelerated. Therefore, to show special favour to a devotee, the Lord sometimes puts him in distress. Besides that, it is stated that the sweetness of happiness is sweeter to those who have tasted bitterness. The sweet Lord, sorry, the Supreme Lord, sorry, I
see you like reading. This is very good, very good. Good. The Supreme Lord, let's see. Oh, it's a long chapter.
we won't be able
We
to
gotta
get through
split it, yeah.
because it's seven.
Seven. Okay. We're gonna continue this chapter where we left off today.
Okay.
Krishna book ki jai. Hare Krishna.